But sometimes, when I hear that the courts are the last hope, or God is the last hope of the common man, to be honest, we may have inherited this phrase without interrogating it and questioning it and problematizing it. Does the common man really have access to justice? I hope that it is not true. The courts, as they are structured today, the bar and the bench, a typical poor Nigerian cannot afford the brief of the most resourceful lawyer that can get you out of trouble. And so we still have people who stole votes. And the judges, particularly the lower courts like the magistrates, that is when they are at their best, and they send them to jail for 5 years, 10 years, and somebody who did something otherwise is entitled to bail. I don't know how you felt, not just as female lawyers, but also as mothers, when it was reported recently that a young man in Port Harcourt who was arrested at the age of 14, he was not found until about 40 or 80 years later. And that is in Nigeria. And he was in the Nigeria prison. Which judge sentenced him here and abandoned him? Judges go every year to carry out the rituals of going to prison to find out people who ought not to be in prison. And now, as chairman of the Senate Committee on Interior, we oversight the Nigerian prisons, among others. I was shocked when, because of our interaction with the prison authorities, that we have about 80,000 men and women in prison. And of this, only about 30 or 40% of them are convicted. About 60% of those we held in correctional homes, and I dare say they are being totally disconnected because they don't seem to go there and come back corrected. This, over 60% of people in prison, they are Nigerians, and they cannot be said to have access to justice. So where is this theory about the court being the last hope of the common man? The court is now only, in my view, the last hope, or when big fish get their teach on that truth. Because the law of the sea is that the big fish will start by eating the smaller ones, and when they start feasting on the smaller ones, they have to feed on themselves. And when they remain the last two fish, one of them must eat the other. One will succeed in eating the other one, there remains one fish in the sea. And because there is no any other fish for it to eat, it will die eventually of hunger. And that is why I believe that of all the rights that we have, we must do whatever we can to revisit the question, what can we do differently so that this saying that the court is the last hope, it is truly the last hope, even of the typical Nigerian illiterate in the typical rural area. We still have, and I think this must be of particular interest to female lawyers, a legal regime in which women still do not have basic rights. When people talk about having more women in the National Assembly, I say it is beautiful if we make the Assembly more inclusive. But it does not tell me anything about what we do to ensure that when a man wakes up on the outside of his bed and has a woman who has 4 children for him, who he married at the age of when people like me got married, and now he's a member of the National Assembly, he's a member of the Senate, he's now a minister, and then he found that the woman is no longer suitable for cocktail parties, and then he finds excuses to say, I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you. And the woman leave, even though this man has 10 houses, this woman will live without one house. In order to envision what can instill discipline in men and reduce male chauvinism and the false sense of superiority, is that we need a legal regime that addresses the issue of property in the event of family crisis. So I can go on and on, but let me confess, my Lord, that the only reason I am not a COVID today, which is why under the law I'm able to contest for election, is because I have been the beneficiary of a very resourceful bar and a very courageous bench. I do not know how many times I have been charged to court, magistrate court and high court, for allegedly inciting the 1 minute to stop inciting. But this is something you will allow me to say and I will be done. I have been charged several times, and the NBA is on record as offering to defend me pro bono. Our judges courageous enough to refuse to be used to put me away. And the most interesting example I have was when we were fighting for justice. These people are talking about now, there's nothing that is happening that we didn't see. And we didn't not keep quiet before it. And the person was charged, and the magistrate, then the Attorney General of the Federation had been killed, all I did. And then I realized that the police can't charge without the fear of Attorney General. And this magistrate granted me very favorable terms. And then he looked at me and he said, I need the freedom. And he asked the FDA to withdraw their initial objections. And he granted me bail so that I can continue to do what I was doing. Then lastly, when I was robbed of my election, because the city is coming, I didn't have the resources, nor do I have the connection with any judge. And those who picked me out were proud of the fact that they were arrogant to the point of, I can go on and on and on. There was a time I was reckless in my pronouncement when I said a judge issued a black market injunction. He could have decided to jail me. Now, from what I know, we don't mobilize our troops to say, no, this injunction is black market thing. I cannot stop a movie tree with my bare hands. I will be crushed. So I have had I am a robust beneficiary of a very resourceful bar and also a very courageous bench. That is why I am not incumbent. And I think that each time I have a gathering of lawyers, I must never fail to say, thank you for what you do. But for that and the judges, this man will be incumbent. Thank you.
Very insightful presentation. Thank you so much, sir. Right now, we'll go straight into the keynote speech. I have my co-host, my co-compare, is going to be joining me off stage, Osioma Soludo. We'll be doing this together. To introduce our distinguished keynote speaker, who has been ready to deliver what she's set to do. So, Osioma, I give the floor to you for gender sensitivity.
Thank you, Sheikh. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Speaker, and I'll just briefly read her citation before she comes to the stage. Join me to welcome Mrs. Abimbola Akeredolu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, fellow of the
It challenges us, not meant to celebrate how far we've come, and we have come pretty far, but it makes us honestly confront how far we still have to go. More importantly, it compels us to consider how we are to move from participation to transformation. how we are to move from occupying seats at the table to shaping the agenda of the table itself. The real challenge before us is to determine who will write the next chapter of our profession, who will define its values, who will shape its institutions, who will determine what justice looks like in a rapidly changing society. The past teaches us that every generation inherits institutions, but every generation must decide whether merely to preserve those institutions or to improve them. We'll all agree with me that the fact that we are gathered here today means that we do recognize that our generation has been entrusted with the responsibility to improve on the institutions that we have inherited. For a long time, discussions around women in the legal profession centered on inclusion. Women have advocated for equal opportunity. Issue. The ship of transformation and all other things we say while we are trying to fill the bottle on inclusion. We've gotten inclusion to a good place. Now it's time to move on to other things. Inclusion will be alright. It will start to fill itself. But it's time to move on to transformation. We must make hay while the sun shines. So the question before us is whether women should be included. We dealt with that. What comes after inclusion? How do we move from participation to influence? From representation to transformation? From occupying spaces to shaping the future of those spaces? That is the next chapter that we are here to advocate. Inclusion says, asks whether women have been invited to exist in these structures, whereas transformation asks whether those structures themselves are evolving. Our conversation today recognizes that though inclusion is indispensable, we need it, but it is no longer the destination. It's merely the doorway, the portal. We need to move and we need to go through it. I like the allusion of writing the next chapter, and I pause here to make a small description. Those who have ever written a book will know, I once heard a renowned author say that when you're writing a book, it's like playing God. You determine which character is a villain, which character is a hero. You determine the plot. Is it going to be a sunny day? Is it going to be a rainy day? Is it going to be a bright day? Just the way God determines our destiny. The allusion there is that writing the next chapter, we as women can, to an extent, play God in writing the next chapter. It's a unique opportunity and privilege in the battle. But where are we headed? We are headed to Kano. Perhaps after this conference we'll get to Ilorin. Women remain underrepresented in the highest decision-making positions within the legal profession. Even in corporate governance, public institutions, and political leadership, women remain underrepresented. Structural barriers, unconscious bias, unequal caregiving responsibilities, and limited access to influential networks continue to shape professional outcomes, and I must add, to the detriment of women. But we're tough. We will overcome these challenges. These challenges have been recognized repeatedly within the legal profession. But to the credit of the NBA Women's Forum, they have consistently called for reforms, stronger leadership pathways, and institutional support for women lawyers. So, in writing the next chapter, it requires deliberate action. Writing the next chapter requires a deliberate shift in mindset. So, how do we achieve a deliberate shift in mindset? A number of suggestions come to mind, and I will share it. Bear with me. We must first redefine define leadership. And I'm happy that speakers, goodwill messages speakers prior to my taking the stage, have all talked about leadership. But we must redefine leadership. Leadership is not a title. It is service. A leader is a servant. When I took office as Attorney General in Ogun State, I would have meetings with communities who had complaints, and they would all be screaming and bowing. And I would say to them, don't scream and bow, I'm your servant. We need our people to understand that when you hold office to serve the people. Leadership is about service. It is influence anchored in integrity. It is courage to make difficult decisions. It is the willingness to serve before seeking recognition. Leadership is no longer measured by position alone. It is measured by influence, integrity, service, and impact. The leaders who will shape the future of the legal profession are those who invest in people, build institutions, mentor successors, and inspire confidence and character. The legal profession must continue to produce women who are not only exceptional lawyers, but women who are visionary institution builders, women who will strengthen our courts, modernize legal practice, influence public policy, and contribute meaningfully to national development. And I must add, in doing all of this, you must stay with them. Secondly, we must invest intentionally in mentorship and sponsorship. Mentorship offers guidance. Sponsorship creates opportunity. Many brilliant women are exceptionally competent, but they are not seen or heard from because no one is advocating for them in the rooms where consequential decisions are being made. Mentorship should not be an occasional act of goodwill alone. It should become an institutional culture. NBA Women Forum should become an institutional culture. Sponsorship should complement mentorship. Advice opens doors. Advocacy keeps the door open. Everyone who has broken a barrier has a responsibility to ensure that the barrier remains broken for those who follow. Our greatest legacy will never be measured by our individual achievements alone, but by the opportunities we create for others. Thirdly, we must embrace innovation. The future of legal practice is being shaped by technology, artificial intelligence, digital justice systems, online dispute resolution, data governance, cybersecurity, environmental sustainability, and cross-border commercial practice. All I see there are opportunities. But we need to embrace innovation to have access to those opportunities. The future belongs to lawyers who combine legal excellence with technological competence, commercial awareness, emotional intelligence, and adaptability. Women must not only participate in this transformation, they must lead it. The next generation of legal innovators, policymakers, regulators, arbitrators, judges, and law firm leaders must include women who are equipped not only with legal knowledge, but with technological competence, commercial awareness, and global perspectives. Fourth, we must build institutions rather than personalities. Strong institutions outlive strong men and individual brilliance. The measure of successful leadership is not whether an organization depends on one individual. Successful leadership depends on whether the organization continues to flourish long after that individual has left office. Successful leadership requires transparent governance, succession planning, accountability, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. The NBA Women's Forum itself has an opportunity to become a modern institution, one that nurtures leadership, promotes professional excellence, advances policy reform, and serves as a permanent platform for empowering women across generations. We must strengthen partnerships. No movement succeeds in isolation. The pursuit of equity is not exclusively a women's agenda. It's a professional imperative. It's a national imperative. Men must remain our active partners. Promoting the agenda of women does not mean we exclude the men. We must work together. Men must remain active partners in creating workplaces where merit thrives, where opportunities are equitable, and where leadership reflects the diversity of our profession. Beyond the legal profession, collaboration with government, with academia, with the judiciary, civil society, and the private sector will be essential if meaningful reforms are to endure. Every generation is remembered for the chapter it writes. What chapter are we going to write? Finally, we must recognize that advancing women strengthens the entire profession. Gender equality is not a woman's issue. It's a professional imperative. When different and diverse voices participate in decision-making, institutions become more innovative, justice becomes more inclusive, and everyone benefits. Society is improved. Permit me now to speak directly to the younger women lawyers present here today.